Why do we feel sad? Sadness is an unavoidable part of the human condition, a response to loss, pain, and the unpredictable chaos of life. It emerges when the world doesn't align with your expectations, when your vision of how things should be is shattered. But the question is not why sadness exists. The question is, how do you confront it? And more importantly, how do you stop it from consuming you? The first thing you must understand is that sadness isn't your enemy. It's a messenger. It's the voice inside you saying something isn't right. It's an alarm signaling that your values, actions, or environment are misaligned. To ignore it, to shove it under the rug, is to allow it to fester and grow into something worse: bitterness, resentment, despair. You can't afford that. None of us can. You start where you are. Maybe you feel sad because your life isn't what you thought it would be. You're not as successful as you hoped. You've been rejected. You've lost something or someone important. That hurts. It always hurts. But what do you do with that pain? You must ask yourself a hard question. Are you allowing yourself to be a victim of circumstance? Because if you are, then sadness has already won. Here's the key: you must take responsibility, not for everything that's happened to you, but for everything that comes next. You might not be to blame for your sadness, but you are responsible for how you respond to it. That's the harsh truth no one wants to hear. It's easier to wallow, to blame the world, to convince yourself that nothing can change. But easy paths lead to nowhere. So what can you do? Begin small, ridiculously small if necessary. Make your bed. Clean your room. Order the chaos in your immediate surroundings. When you bring order to your environment, you bring order to your mind. And when your mind is ordered, you can think clearly, act decisively, and rebuild yourself. Next, articulate your goals. Where do you want to go? What kind of person do you want to be? You can't just stop feeling sad by willing it away. You need a purpose, a reason to move forward. The antidote to sadness isn't happiness, it's meaning. Happiness is fleeting, a byproduct of circumstances. But meaning is enduring, forged in the fires of responsibility, effort, and growth. And then you must act. Do something, anything, to move closer to your goals. The act itself is transformative. It doesn't matter if it's perfect or even successful. What matters is that you're moving, building, striving. You're refusing to let sadness anchor you in place. Life will never be without struggle. That's the price you pay for existence. But within that struggle lies your opportunity. The opportunity to grow, to learn, to become more than you were yesterday. When sadness comes knocking, you'll have the tools to face it, not as a victim, but as a warrior. Stop feeling sad by refusing to surrender to it. Listen to what it tells you, but don't let it define you. Build order, pursue meaning, and take responsibility. In doing so, you don't just overcome sadness, you transcend it. And that is the highest aim of a life well lived. Sadness is often misunderstood as something to be avoided at all costs, a sign of weakness or failure. But this perspective fails to recognize its deeper purpose and value. Sadness is not your enemy. It is a messenger, a signal that something in your life needs attention or change. It arises when there is a gap between your expectations and reality, when you experience loss, or when your goals and actions are misaligned with what truly matters to you. To ignore or suppress sadness is to miss the opportunity to learn from it. Think of sadness as a natural part of the emotional spectrum, much like physical pain. Just as physical pain warns you that something in your body needs care or healing, sadness points to areas of your emotional or psychological life that require introspection. For example, if you feel sad about the loss of a relationship, that sadness is highlighting the importance of connection in your life. If you feel disheartened about a lack of progress in your career, it is signaling a disconnect between where you are and where you want to be. The sadness itself is not the problem, it's the unaddressed cause that needs attention. Acknowledging sadness is the first step in understanding its message. Many people try to distract themselves or numb their feelings to avoid facing sadness. They turn to temporary fixes like entertainment, substances, or avoidance behaviors, but these only mask the underlying issue. The key is not to run from sadness, but to sit with it, to listen to what it is telling you. This requires courage and honesty. You must ask yourself hard questions. What is missing in my life? What am I neglecting? What am I holding on to that no longer serves me? Viewing sadness as a messenger also means treating it with respect. It's a call to action, not an invitation to wallow. While it's important to allow yourself to feel and process sadness, it's equally crucial to avoid letting it take over your identity. You are not your sadness. Instead, it's a temporary state designed to guide you toward growth and better alignment with your values and needs. Recognizing this gives you the power to use sadness constructively rather than being paralyzed by it. Sadness also fosters self-awareness. By paying attention to what triggers your sadness, you can uncover patterns and deeper truths about yourself. These insights can help you make more informed decisions and take steps toward a life that feels more authentic and fulfilling. For example, sadness about a missed opportunity might reveal a deeper passion or interest you haven't fully pursued. Sadness about a strained relationship might highlight areas where you need to communicate or set boundaries more effectively. In this way, sadness becomes a tool for personal development rather than an obstacle. Ultimately, sadness is not a barrier to be overcome, but a bridge to greater understanding and growth. It is there to guide you, to teach you, and to remind you of what truly matters. By approaching sadness with curiosity and a willingness to learn, you transform it from an uncomfortable feeling into a powerful catalyst for positive change. Taking responsibility is one of the most transformative steps you can take in overcoming sadness. While it's true that life is full of circumstances beyond your control, the way you respond to those circumstances is entirely within your power. Sadness often becomes more deeply entrenched when you adopt a mindset of victimhood, seeing yourself as someone to whom life simply happens. This perspective, while understandable in moments of great difficulty, is ultimately disempowering. It leaves you feeling helpless, waiting for external factors to change before you can feel better. But the reality is this: if you surrender your agency, you also surrender your ability to shape your own life. Taking responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything that goes wrong. Life is complex, and many factors that contribute to sadness are outside your influence. You are not responsible for the loss of a loved one, an unexpected illness, or the cruelty of others. However, you are responsible for how you respond to these events. This distinction is critical. Responsibility is not about self-recrimination, it's about reclaiming your power. It's a way of saying, this is my life, and I will decide how to move forward, no matter how difficult things are. When you take responsibility, you stop waiting for someone or something else to rescue you. You stop blaming circumstances, other people, or even yourself in a way that keeps you stuck. Instead, you begin to ask, what can I do about this? What steps can I take, however small, to improve my situation? This shift in mindset is liberating because it puts the focus on what is within your control. Even in the face of immense sadness, there is always something you can do. It might be as simple as getting out of bed, making a plan, or reaching out for help. These actions, small as they may seem, are powerful because they reaffirm your ability to influence your life. Taking responsibility also means accepting that your choices matter. Every decision you make, no matter how minor, contributes to the trajectory of your life. This can be daunting, but it's also deeply empowering. If you find yourself consumed by sadness, ask yourself whether your current habits and actions are helping or hindering you. Are you dwelling on the past, or are you working to create a better future? Are you isolating yourself, or are you seeking connection and support? Responsibility involves recognizing these patterns and making conscious choices to align your actions with your values and goals. Another critical aspect of responsibility is resilience. Life is full of setbacks, and sadness is often a natural response to these challenges. But when you take responsibility, you begin to see setbacks not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities for growth. You learn to adapt, to persevere, and to find meaning even in the midst of struggle. This doesn't make sadness disappear, but it does make it manageable. It transforms it from a state of helplessness into a process of learning and rebuilding. Taking responsibility is not easy. It requires courage, honesty, and effort. But it is also the key to regaining your sense of control and purpose. By choosing to take responsibility, you reclaim your agency, your resilience, and your ability to create a life that feels meaningful even in the face of sadness. It is a profound act of self-respect and self-empowerment. When sadness takes hold, life can feel chaotic, disorganized, and overwhelming. The mind becomes cluttered with thoughts of regret, fear, or hopelessness, and this inner turmoil often reflects itself outwardly in the way we live. Our surroundings may fall into disorder: a messy room, a pile of neglected tasks, a growing sense of being buried under it all. While this might seem trivial in the face of profound sadness, addressing the chaos in your immediate environment is a surprisingly powerful first step toward regaining control and clarity. The act of bringing order to what you can control, no matter how small, can create a ripple effect that helps stabilize your emotions in your life. Why does this work? Because our surroundings are a mirror of our inner state. When your physical environment is chaotic, it reinforces feelings of being overwhelmed. Each unmade bed, each pile of clutter, each undone task whispers, "You can't handle this." It's a constant reminder of what you're neglecting and can make sadness feel even heavier. On the other hand, when you start to bring order to your space, you begin to reclaim a sense of agency. Cleaning your room, organizing your desk, or even just tidying up a single corner can send a powerful message to yourself. I am capable of creating structure and beauty, even in the midst of chaos. This isn't just about cleanliness or aesthetics, it's about creating a foundation for action. A well-ordered environment allows your mind to focus, to think clearly, and to prioritize. It eliminates the mental friction caused by constant visual reminders of things undone. If you're surrounded by disorder, every decision becomes harder. Should you start with this mess or that one? Should you even bother? These small, nagging questions drain your energy before you've even begun. But when your space is tidy, you free up mental bandwidth to focus on what truly matters: your goals, your well-being, and your path forward. Bringing order to your environment is also symbolic. It's a way of saying, I may not have control over everything in my life, but I can control this. Sadness often stems from feelings of helplessness, from the belief that life is happening to you and you're powerless to change it. By taking even the smallest step to organize your surroundings, you break that narrative. You prove to yourself in tangible terms that you can make a difference, that you are not entirely at the mercy of external forces. Each small act of order is a step toward reclaiming your autonomy. Moreover, the act of organizing your space can have a calming, almost meditative effect. It gives you something concrete to focus on, pulling you out of the whirlwind of your thoughts. As you put objects in their proper places, you're also, in a sense, putting your mind in order. It's a process of grounding yourself, of reconnecting with the present moment, and of finding small but significant victories in the act of caring for your space. This process of creating order doesn't have to be overwhelming. You don't need to tackle everything at once. Start small, make your bed, clear one surface, organize a single drawer. The act itself is more important than the scale. What matters is that you're taking action, asserting control, and building momentum. Each small success builds confidence and lays the groundwork for tackling larger challenges, both in your environment and in your life. When sadness clouds your vision and makes the world feel uncontrollable, start by bringing order to the space around you. This simple act can clear your mind, lift your spirits, and remind you of your own capacity to shape your reality. It's not about solving everything at once. It's about creating a foundation, a foothold from which you can begin to climb. Sadness often arises from a sense of emptiness or disconnection, a feeling that life lacks fulfillment or purpose. In times like these, it's common to chase happiness, believing that achieving a certain goal, acquiring a particular possession, or experiencing fleeting pleasures will bring relief. But happiness, as many discover, is elusive. It is not a permanent state, but a transient emotion tied to external circumstances. Relying on happiness as your primary aim in life is like chasing shadows. It's always moving, and the moment you grasp it, it slips away. What truly sustains you in the face of sadness is not happiness, but meaning. Meaning is deeper than happiness. It is rooted in a sense of purpose, in knowing that your actions and your existence matter, even in the face of struggle. Meaning provides stability and direction. It is not dependent on favorable conditions or the absence of hardship. In fact, meaning often emerges most powerfully when life is at its most difficult. It is forged in the act of confronting challenges, taking responsibility, and committing to something greater than yourself. The pursuit of meaning begins with understanding what truly matters to you. This requires reflection and honesty. What are your values? What gives you a sense of fulfillment? What kind of person do you want to become? These questions are not easy to answer, but they are essential. Without a clear sense of what you stand for, you are more likely to drift through life, reacting to circumstances rather than shaping them. Sadness thrives in this kind of aimlessness because it feeds on the lack of direction. Finding meaning also requires stepping outside of yourself. Sadness often narrows your focus, turning your attention inward and making your own struggles feel all-encompassing. But when you connect your life to something beyond your immediate concerns, whether it's contributing to your family, supporting your community, pursuing a passion, or working toward a long-term goal, you expand your perspective. You begin to see yourself as part of a larger story, one where your efforts and sacrifices have significance. It's important to recognize that meaning is not handed to you, it is something you actively create. This involves effort, commitment, and often discomfort. For example, building meaningful relationships requires vulnerability and patience. Pursuing a meaningful career demands persistence and hard work. Advocating for a cause you believe in might involve facing rejection or opposition. These efforts are not always pleasant, but they are deeply rewarding because they align your actions with your values. This alignment creates a sense of coherence and purpose that sustains you even when happiness fades. When you pursue meaning, you also cultivate resilience. Challenges and setbacks, which might otherwise deepen your sadness, become opportunities for growth and learning. You begin to see difficulties not as barriers, but as integral parts of a meaningful life. Struggle itself gains value because it is through struggle that you strengthen your character, develop your skills, and deepen your understanding of yourself and the world around you. The pursuit of meaning does not eliminate sadness, but it transforms your relationship with it. Sadness becomes a part of the larger narrative of your life, a chapter rather than the whole story. It loses its power to define you because your identity is rooted in something deeper. By focusing on meaning rather than happiness, you build a life that is rich, resilient, and purposeful, a life that sustains you through both joy and sorrow. When faced with sadness, the weight of inertia can feel overwhelming. It's easy to succumb to the feeling that there's nothing you can do, that every step forward is futile or too difficult to take. This paralysis is often fueled by the belief that you must have the perfect plan or take a massive leap to see progress. But the truth is, progress begins with the smallest of actions. Incremental steps, however insignificant they may seem, are the key to breaking free from sadness and moving toward a better state of mind. Taking action, even in the smallest way, disrupts the stagnation that sadness thrives on. When you are sad, your thoughts often spiral inward, replaying past regrets or fixating on fears about the future. This mental loop can trap you in a cycle of inaction, convincing you that change is impossible. The only way to escape this cycle is to act. Action pulls you out of your head and into the present moment. It gives you something tangible to focus on, no matter how small or seemingly trivial that action may be. The beauty of incremental action is that it doesn't demand perfection or grand gestures. You don't need to solve all your problems in one day or achieve your ultimate goal overnight. You simply need to begin. Make your bed, take a walk, drink a glass of water, send an email. Each small action builds momentum, creating a sense of accomplishment that pushes you toward the next step. These tiny victories compound over time, gradually shifting your mindset from one of helplessness to one of capability and control. Moreover, action clarifies your path. When you're lost in sadness, the future can feel murky and uncertain. You might not know what the right direction is or where you should even begin. But clarity doesn't come from endless contemplation. It comes from movement. By taking small steps, you begin to gather information, adjust your approach, and discover what works and what doesn't. Each step forward, no matter how imperfect, teaches you something valuable about yourself and your circumstances. Incremental action also nurtures resilience. Sadness often feels insurmountable because it presents itself as a monolith, an unbreakable wall. But when you break it down into manageable pieces, one task, one moment, one step at a time, you realize that it's not as unyielding as it seems. Each small effort chips away at the weight of sadness, and with every step, you grow stronger and more capable of facing the challenges ahead. This approach doesn't mean ignoring the depth of your sadness or pretending that small actions will magically solve everything. It's about recognizing that progress, no matter how modest, is still progress. It's about understanding that even the smallest actions are acts of defiance against the stagnation of sadness. By moving forward, even when it feels difficult, you reclaim your agency and remind yourself that you are not powerless. Incremental action is not just a strategy for overcoming sadness, it's a way of living. It teaches you to focus on what you can do right now rather than being paralyzed by the enormity of what lies ahead. It shifts your mindset from one of despair to one of possibility, showing you that even in the face of sadness, there is always something you can do to move forward. And with each small step, you move closer to a life that feels more meaningful, more fulfilling, and more your own.